Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to the April 10th, 2019 meeting of the Ascension Parish Planning Commission. I would ask that everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the record will reflect that all commissioners are present with the exception of Mr. Christie, who told me that he might have a problem getting here tonight due to his regular job. Will staff introduce themselves, please?
Stacy Webb, Recording Secretary for the Planning Commission.
Jerome Fournier, Director of Planning and Development.
Eric Poche, Parish Planner.
Thank you. Just a general announcement under the chairman's comments before I turn it over to CPEX. If you are here about item number 12 on the agenda, Oak Lake subdivision, the public hearing to approve or deny the revision to the preliminary plat, the developer has pulled that from the agenda tonight. Is that correct, Mr. Fournier? All right, so that matter will not be taken up tonight. So if you're here for Oak Lake, we're not going to have that hearing tonight, and nothing will change out there. So that has been taken off.
Mr. Chairman, we have a representative from the developer on that project, and who is going to basically give the official request to pull it, because
Okay.
we need that from them.
Okay. We can do that now, I think. I'll do that now just so people know that it's not here.
That'd be fine.
Good evening. Andy St. Romain, 8555 United Plaza Boulevard in Baton Rouge, here on behalf of the developer to request that the request for the amendment to the Oak Lake subdivision plat be removed from tonight's meeting.
Okay. We don't have to vote on that, do we? Okay. Yeah, it's removed. Thank you, Mr. St. Romain. All right, moving on to then 5A is the CPEX presentation. Ms. Janet Tharp from CPEX is here. Hello, Ms. Janet.
Hi, thank you. I'm Janet Tharp, and I'm from the Center for Planning Excellence. We've been working on your comprehensive plan, the master land use plan, for over a year, and I wanted to update you on it. It's been a few months since I've been here. We've been working, incorporating all of the great input that we had on the plan, and starting to look at recommendations, and I just wanted to update you on that. I need the PowerPoint. Oh, there it is. This is a timeline that we've used throughout the plan, and you can see we're getting to the end of the planning phase. So we're in the drafting the plan and then preparing for another public meeting and adoption. We have a vision that we have updated numerous times and developed that's based on the public input that we've received. And this is on our website, so we're making sure the latest versions are always on the website. You can take a look at it. It basically designates different areas in different development types. This is not zoning. It's a recommendation of the types of land use in the area. And then after this plan is completed, we'll be updating the zoning ordinance to make sure that the tools are in place to implement these types of development districts. The rural area, which was the green, is predominantly an area that's outside of the levee system, and it is 1 unit per 5 acres. State subdivisions are the areas in yellow, and those are 1 acre per unit, residential unit. Residential neighborhoods are similar to what you have now, and we're introducing some additional compact development in these areas. The neighborhood hubs are the purple dots, and those are areas that would be little mixed-use nodes where there could be a little bit more diverse housing types, mixed-use housing and that kind of thing. Commercial retail is the orange, and then the employment areas that incorporate business parks and office parks are blue. And again, that's the map that reflects the input that we've received, and we'll continue to tweak it as we go through this process. So what does the vision do? It identifies future development patterns. It creates opportunities for some compact mixed-use neighborhood centers where residents can live and shop. There's a lot of research that more and more people, the younger people, want to have more compact places to live where they can walk to places and have a little bit more diverse housing types. The plan establishes a strong vision for development on the West Bank. That's something that we heard over and over again, that really there's a lot of available land, and the first step in getting development there is making a plan that shows that development's welcome there, and there's an orderly, transparent process for the types of land uses that would be appropriate. The plan recommends a wider range of housing options. It retains open space by incorporating some small lot housing options. And then finally, it protects areas outside the levee system with the recommended large parcel development. So there's a few things as far as the way that interpret this map. We've had questions of, are those lines between the different types of development types hard lines? And the answer is no. At this scale, you really, they could move either way a little bit. So they aren't like, we didn't follow lot lines when we were drawing those or anything that specific. Another issue is that the intent of this map is to help the Planning Commission and Council make development decisions. And so it's kind of the first layer that you would review. You're still going to need to do a review of individual requests based on the location, the services provided, and do an analysis that's done with looking at the vision map, in addition to all that analysis that you do today. And then there's about 14 neighborhood hubs on the map, and it's not anticipated that all of those would be developed. These are showing areas that are potential for that to develop. There's some vacant land or redevelopable land, but we aren't saying that every single one's going to have be developed out that way. So what we're doing right now is preparing the master plan for public review. There's 11 chapters, and the real key chapters are the land use, housing, transportation, mobility, drainage, recreation, and economic development chapters. And the transportation and drainage we're working very closely with HNTB, who is working on both a transportation plan for the parish and drainage issues, and so we're incorporating all of that work into this process as well. And as a matter of fact, they're having public meetings tonight and tomorrow night on that transportation plan, and I'd encourage you to go to those. They've done a great job working with us and using our vision and modeling that we've done, incorporating that into the transportation plan. The land use chapter will address things like recommendations to make land use and infrastructure decisions that are consistent with the vision map, aligning the zoning and subdivision ordinances so that you can actually do the recommendations that we're making here, balance the mix of uses on the West Bank, manage transition between uses, and other similar land use topics. The housing will address protecting and enhancing existing neighborhoods, as well as increasing housing choice and creating new vibrant neighborhoods as well. The transportation section will discuss implementing the recommendations that came out of the transportation plan. We'll address access management and then the street network and how to make connections that will take some of the traffic off of the streets and high off of the major arterials. Drainage section is following the work that's being done now, but it will, the recommendations are to reduce development and development impacts in the sensitive areas of the parish, including those areas outside the levee system, maintaining the existing infrastructure and expanding programs to clean ditches and really maintain what you have now and making sure that it's working properly. And then having an educational program to really make sure that your residents understand their role in keeping the stormwater management system operational and running, and how that whole system works. The recreational section talks It really emphasizes having multifunctional spaces where family could be, child could be playing t-ball, parents could be walking, exercise path, watching their kids, and really making the most out of the recreational areas so that there's programming for all ages on every site. And also, it's talking about using parks and open space as floodplain management tools so that you could have detention areas in the parks and open space areas that also work to detain water in high water times of a lot of storms and rain events. And then we've worked closely with AEDC on the economic development chapter and have aligned a lot of the recommendations there, really looking at the certified sites that the Louisiana Economic Development has certified and how to best use those. And then looking at workforce development and diversifying the economic base. So that's kind of a summary of what's coming in the next month or so. One of the things that has been asked a lot is what does the neighborhood hub look like? And we're trying to do some before and afters of some property here in Ascension. This is not in Ascension Parish. But it's something like, having, that would be a start of a neighborhood hub, potentially building something like that. I'm not sure that's exactly what we're looking at, but we were trying to visualize that and so that people can kind of get an idea of what we're talking about. And we should have that ready for the open houses that we have scheduled. That's our next step. We're going to roll out our recommendations at open houses on April 30th and May 1st. We will also have a draft online on May 1st or 2nd that can be downloaded, and you'll be sent a copy as well at that time. The Planning and Zoning Commission is scheduled to hold a meeting to discuss the plan tentatively May 29th, and I think Jerome will be firming up that date, and then hope to discuss this with the Parish Council in June. And with that, I think that's all I have today. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Ms. Shannon, the one thing I just want to make sure is specifically whenever it goes to the neighborhood planning areas, the neighborhood developments, that is probably going to be a little bit higher density than what we normally allow, correct?
The neighborhood hubs?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay.
they could be. They could still not be, but
Okay.
they would allow, a little bit more.
Is there any other way that we can restrict that would be in a very, very specific spots? Or is somebody going to be able to try to use that type of designation in perhaps an area where we don't think it's necessary?
Well, it would be, before you could have that development, you would have to have some tweaking to your zoning ordinances to allow the type of mixed use. You do have some mixed use allowed, but you'd probably need to do a little work on the zoning ordinances for that type of development. And then you would have to have someone come in and request that, and would need to go through, look at what, density can be just a couple of duplexes, or it could be,
But we do not
mixed
have,
use.
we are not forced to go to a much higher density
No,
requirement.
you would be analyzing those cases based on the services, where it's located and what's proposed and how they lay it out. And so, we'll have all of that in the zoning code as far as how an appropriate neighborhood hub would be developed. So.
So it'd be like a separate residential zoning ordinance that would fit into the zoning plan. So you wouldn't have this higher density development in what would be the estate subdivisions.
No, it
or
would
the
be
reg-
a separate zoning designation that you'd have to ask for. It's not something that will just happen by any means.
And would still be able to take into consideration when that application is made, whether there's appropriate infrastructure such as road and sewer and
Yes,
everything else,
yes.
drainage, before we would
Approve it.
approve it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, the tool, the zoning ordinance just gives you the tool to allow that type of development. And so that's really the key first step, is that you're able to do it. Because right now, if someone wanted to do it, they might have to do a SPUD or a PUD, and take a lot of work on both the staff and the developer's side to figure out how to make that work. And we'd like to kind of make sure that we can provide some guidance in the ordinance to have this type of development that works.
What is the, well, let me ask you this. CPEX looked at the expected growth over the next 20 years in Ascension Parish?
Yes, we, using the Regional Planning Commission's forecasts is what we used and used their numbers to project growth that could possibly occur.
And what is that projected growth over the next 20 years?
We are using 52,000 new people, and that is over a 25-year period.
And what's the current population that you used?
The base, we're using 2006, which is 117, I think 200 or 400.
So it's a quite substantial increase that's expected based on the trends that have seen over the past 20 years, correct?
That's right, and that the way that it works is the region has a population to allocate, and they allocate it across all their parishes, and after they did studies and figured out potential population growth, that's what.
I mean, if we're adding 52,000 to 117, that's, I can't do the math that quick, but it's close to, it's not as much as 50%, but it's pretty close to a 50% increase over the next 20 years.
Less than that. And the key there is that it's really, this plan is, if it's not going to make that growth happen, but if it does, if the projections are correct, then it lays out a management plan of
how to accommodate the growth that could be coming.
That could be coming.
It's not an invitation, it's just if the trend keeps going as it is, this is a plan on how to accommodate that growth.
That's right.
Do we know, Janet, was there any studies done or any projections on where that growth is coming from, whether it's outside the parish currently or within the parish?
Well, we didn't. We didn't do any hard studies on that, but we do know that the parish has several thousand people graduating from high school every year, and there's families in Louisiana. People generally come back to the parish. They might go away, but they come back, and they want to live when they grow up. They want to come back to where they grew up, real tied to that land. And so, if you divide the 52,000 growth by 25 years, you're talking about a couple thousand a year, which is similar to what's graduated. But that's not to say that some of those people are going to leave, and then people will be coming from Baton Rouge and other areas.
But some of that growth, so the class of 2019 that's getting ready to graduate from Dutchtown, Santa Ma, and EA, that's all going to be adults. They're going to be kids going to college, but they're going to be a lot that are entering the workforce right here in Ascension Parish and looking for a home to live outside of their parents' home.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Hopefully.
Yeah. We could hope, yes.
For those of us that are parents of that age group, yes. Okay. Any more questions for the commission? All right. Thank you, Janet. I appreciate that and all the hard work that CPEX has done in giving us a vision for the future. It's really been excellent work. Thank you. All right, moving on to number 6 on the agenda is a public comment.
That's for number 6.
We're getting there. Number 6 is a public comment period for any agenda item. We have no public hearings tonight, but if you want to speak on any other agenda item, now is the time to do it. And I know we already have one. So, Ms. Roberry, you get first by just standing up first. And I would ask, please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
I know, and it shouldn't take that long. And I didn't come prepared to speak on the CPEX tonight, but that's what I want to make comments on doesn't have a public hearing. As Janet Tharp knows, we have participated throughout this entire process, and as you know, we have. And she stood up here and talked about this is development types, not zoning. Well, it is going to change zoning. She did admit that there's going to be, zoning will come later with ordinances. And again, it's the same thing we bring up every time. We do not have adequate infrastructure here. And when we are increasing these densities, and we do not have adequate infrastructure to take care of what we have here already, it is ridiculous. I talk to citizens daily about this kind of stuff, and And as we said, right now we have 1 house per acre, 2 and 3. We bring in these other ones, the residential, which is the highest is 3 houses per acre. We're going to 4.5. And these compact densities are 10 houses per acre and commercial. And yes, we're limiting them to 14 at this plan, in this plan for right now, but that doesn't mean that is going to stay. And the planning and zoning and the parish council can change that at any time. So once we open up the door for the change, it opens up the danger for residents who live here and came here because they wanted a certain level of quality of life, which is rural, good schools, can have bigger pieces of property, et cetera. So I'm not going to say a lot about this, but again, we've been participating in the hearings, and we just don't really feel like we've been heard. Most of this stuff is really good comments. It's really good stuff. Our only problem we really have at this point is, again, increasing these densities, which is basically tripling densities per acre in this parish. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Robert.
Catherine Goppold.
Good evening, Commission members. Thank you for your time. I have to start out and say that this plan is not the plan of Ascension Parish citizens. When we went into the meetings, they already had a plan. They tried to get us on board with their plan. And that's what the result of this is. It's the planner's plan for our parish. It's not the people's plan. It's an important point I want to make to you. The urbanization of our parish and the increasing of density, right now in our parish, you can have a PUD, SPUD, or MUD and increase the density. This has been going on for over 10 years. And they're not as popular as we thought they would be. Wade's father was one that helped get it passed through the council. Okay? The final thing I want to say is there is no mechanism in this plan on how we're going to afford all the infrastructure that's required for this. We already have a great deficit now. It's going to only increase if we add 50,000 more people. We do not have parish sewer. We do not have parish water. We don't even have a drainage plan. And talk about roads. Let's not even go there. That's the #1 issue people on their mind every day when they get out of their homes. I don't really know what the young people want, but I don't think they want to live in a 14 per acre piece of land in our apartment. Most people want a little elbow room. They want a little space between them and their neighbor. And what do you see building around the parish right now? The market is a residential single-family home, is it not? The things that have come before you in the last few years. So I'd ask you, think very strongly before you approve this. The people do not want this plan. It is, you hired someone for $450,000, which is a waste, in my opinion, because the people know what they want. We know they're going to try to fill up every single vacant piece of property in our parish to cram as many people in as they can, but we don't have the infrastructure. That is just not sensible. Thank you for your time.
Joel Robert.
Good evening. I'm here tonight, even though I heard that Oak Lake was being taken off of the agenda. That is the reason that I came, because of Oak Lake. The reason I'm here is because I didn't want to take the chance of it happening to not be taken off, or that 1% or 2% chance of something coming up to where that wasn't correct, because it's that big of a deal to me. Because I care that my children are pulling out on the road and going down a road that has an F rating for this development on it without a roundabout. I'm here because I'm being vigilant to make sure that these people are not going to continue coming back and trying to back out on what they agreed to. I don't understand the last 2 to 3 meetings, what's going on with it. I just feel like I applaud y'all for staying consistent in dealing with this. It's going to be setting a precedent. I mean, this is the first development that we've had going through the system like this. And we need to continue to show that we're not going to let developers come from out of town or in town and just put our safety our loved ones, our friends, our neighbors' safety at stake so they can make a few extra bucks, so they can start their construction 3 months earlier than they signed to and agreed on. It's not about the extra buck in Ascension Parish. And I appreciate y'all showing that. I mean, it's about doing things right. It's about taking the concerns and the safety of your citizens, and it's about being consistent. I mean, the Lord has just put vigilance, that term in my head in the last month or so. And I mean, it's just something that we have to continue and do. And for the same reason that I'm here, my kids, they've grown up and like just quick. I mean, they were infants and now they're 9, about to be 10 years old. And I want them to be able to appreciate and live in Ascension Parish like I did, and be able to walk outside without fearing of getting hit by a car, because who knows because. But thank you for your time. God bless.
Moving on to staff report for the subdivision status as of April of this year.
You have the current subdivision report as far as status goes for April of this year, with the little changes denoted by the asterisk by each of the names. If there are any questions of specific developments, I'll be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Going once?
Could you possibly, could you possibly at least give us an idea of what were those changes from each time? Just go over
the
those
one
real quick.
at Highland Trace, Jamestown, Lake West Creek, that was basically an advancement from the second, or first to second CD review, and from second to third CD review. Stony Point Estates, they were in construction, they have now applied for their final plat. The Villas at Rosewood, that probably shouldn't be there because they're still on their first CD review. I think it was like that last month. I must have missed that one, but those are the only changes. Oh no, Cottages at Savannah Road. They have now submitted their construction plans, so we're currently reviewing their construction plans since they revised their preliminary plat.
Okay.
And I think that's all of them.
Hey, Jerome, if I may, on Stony Point, as we were talking earlier, those sidewalks were there in the street right of way, and the developer took them out.
They were, yes.
But, I mean, I know these construction plans don't show it, but they were there, and he doesn't show them as being removed, so he needs to put them back.
Correct. We are in discussion with the developer at this point in time to replace the sidewalks that were removed at that entrance. When they installed the big entryway that they have, it's a large custom-type entryway. They did remove the sidewalks. Those sidewalks are put in place by DOT through a grant. We want them to get replaced, all right? And so I'm working with the developer right now in order to get that happening.
Thank you, sir.
And then, Jerome, Christie Place, have they made any progress on theirs? That was one of them that I know that was supposed to be coming up soon. Okay, are they to the point where we have to have them come back and talk to us yet?
Yeah.
I'll look into that, but I don't think they are.
Okay. Because they were pretty close, I think, a 2 ago, so.
I'll look and get back to you on
Okay,
it.
please.
Anybody else? All right, next item is an engineering staff report, but I don't see Mr. Giroux here, so do we have an engineering staff report?
No, there is none.
Thank you. All right, number 10, item number 10 is approval or a motion to approve or deny the minutes of the, can I say it first? Jumped the gun here. The minutes and written decisions of the March 13th, 2019 Planning Commission meeting, moved by Mr. Chasson, second by Mr. Dumas. All in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Item number 11 is the consent agenda with the affidavit of mortgage declaration for James and Rachel Bordelon, Lot G, 8382 Pertwee Road in Sanama. Do I have a motion to approve
Motion
the
to
consent?
approve.
By Mr. Sexsnyder, second by Mr. Chasson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none, motion's granted. God, everybody's jumping the gun tonight. Motion to adjourn by Mr.
Mr.
Dumas.
Oh, no.
Mr. Chairman?
Nope.
Mr. Chairman?
Unadjourned, yes.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
didn't get in before Mr. Dumas was adjourning.
Yeah. Since the Oak Lake was advertised as a public hearing, if anybody in the audience is here to discuss that matter, I would recommend that we hear
Okay,
them.
that's a good point. So Oak Lake has been removed. Mr. Robert, you've already spoke on Oak Lake. We have people speaking? Yes, okay. How many people do we have?
3.
3. The
Well,
three
some of
people
them
who
have-
signed up, do you want to speak on Oak Lake? It's off the agenda, but, okay, call them up.
Yes.
I don't know the first, Versa J?
What's her name?
I don't know the first name.
They've left.
All right.
Catherine Gobble.
Thank you again, gentlemen. The public is not privy to you pulling items off the agenda, and I did take quite a bit of time to review the paperwork. I went and looked at the site, and so I appreciate your opportunity to speak to you about this issue. This commission approved the preliminary plat for Oak Lake on December 9th, 2015, over 3 years ago. A condition was placed on the approval, the roundabout planned at the entrance of Oak Lake or north and south turn lanes must be operational prior to the approval of the final plat for the second filing. That's where we are today. The condition was placed on the development because of traffic congestion. 3 years later, traffic concerns have escalated. The applicant accepted this condition 3 years ago and started the project. Phase 1 is completed with 50 homes being built. The roundabout is not yet complete, and no north and southbound turn lanes have been constructed that are usable. Last year at your December 12, 2018 meeting, 4 months ago, the applicant asked that this condition be removed from the plat so they could begin work on the second filing, and after some discussion, it was apparent the commission was not going to remove the condition. The applicant pulled the item from the agenda. Obviously, they saw the writing on the wall tonight, and they did the same thing. Now they're back asking for this condition again to be removed, and additionally, they want to receive approval for a temporary road into the subdivision through a lot 31. No north and southbound turn lanes or completion of the roundabout per your original condition. Both these requests should receive a resounding no tonight, which they won't because you're not going to discuss it. But if it comes back again, you should say no. No to the removal of the condition, and no to the temporary road. At least 2 things are at stake. 1, the health, safety, and welfare of the public. Traffic concerns have not been addressed per your original condition, and these concerns are growing with further development. The public opposes the removal of this condition. 2nd, the credibility of this commission. When you place conditions on the preliminary plat approvals, they should not be waived or removed, have variances or conditions or contingencies additionally after the fact. Your decision must be followed by the developer and by you. If not, a dangerous precedent will be set. Your decisions can be reversed without addressing the concerns. Refuse the applicant of this request and build trust with the community. Refuse the request of the applicant. Do not give developers an unfair advantage. Refuse the request of the applicant. Put the health, safety, and welfare of the people first. Thank you.
Teresa Robert.
Okay, Catherine, and I know we have to spend 3 minutes. You didn't give her any extra time. Thank you again, y'all. Just like to begin again, citizens need adequate infrastructure. I was here tonight to say that we did not support the removal of the condition placed on Oak Lake's preliminary plan when the Planning and Zoning Commission originally approved it in 2015. This condition protecting the safety of citizens was put in place by you because of the inadequate infrastructure we live with out there. 3.5 years later, the failing infrastructure has only worsened. The developer agreed to this requirement and moved on with their development. They agreed to do it, and they started building it. At that time, the 2015 traffic impact study paid for by Oak Lake stated that without the completion of the roundabout at the entrance of Oak Lake, the level of service was unacceptable. Thereby, it was written in there, quote, The roundabout on Louisiana 44 is assumed to be constructed before completion of the Oak Lake subdivision. Additionally, traffic capacity at Highway 941, Loosemore, and Highway 44 is unacceptable until a roundabout or other improvements are made. This traffic impact study in 2015 further stated that the existing conditions at this Loosemore Highway 44 Brittany Tower Road intersection fails to operate at an acceptable level of service during peak times. This intersection is only about 1,200 feet south of the entrance of Oak Lake. Traversing traffic in this corridor is already dangerous. It's difficult to make complete and thorough comments tonight about Oak Lake's request because their real intent was not clear. The applicant is also asking the Commission for permission to build a temporary access road into the subdivision. We were asking you not to approve the temporary entrance into the subdivision through Lot 31 adjacent to 44. We felt like the road was a great liability to both those traveling on 44 and with those who would be using the proposed temporary entrance. Can't help but wonder who would be benefiting by that request. Could your consent of this request give Oak Lake favor to receive a variance from the Board of Adjustments to continue building phases 2 and 3 before the roundabout was finished? And that's what we feared, is even if you gave it to them, even though it said in the notes it really didn't affect it, that would give them, they have DOT permission, and then you would give permission, and they'd go there and they'd get that. But anyway, I'm just asking you again not to shirk your responsibility, and I see tonight that y'all didn't because they pulled it from the agenda, and we have no doubt that is why they pulled it, because you were standing firm and representing our community and our area. And we just tell you again that to continue to build, by allowing them not to continue building past Phase 1 until the Conway roundabout is complete, as was conditioned in the original permit. Your first and foremost duty as Planning and Zoning Commissioners is to protect the welfare and safety of Ascension Parish residents who travel through and live in this dangerous corridor, along with all the other citizens in Louisiana that do. Again, thank you for standing firm. I don't believe this is going to totally go away. We'll be back when they're back. Thank you.
Anyone else, Stacey?
No.
All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.